A warm welcome to everyone, wherever you may be watching. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Segun Okimbalo. It's prime time right on television, right here in Nigeria, 7 p.m. And you're right into the scheme of things as far as the political stories in Nigeria is concerned. So we're giving you updates and the latest as you need to know. Let's get right into it because we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's begin with a story of a former Deputy Senate President, a federal lawmaker, sitting senator representing Enugu State in the Senate, Senator Ekiti. The London Metropolitan Police said it has arrested him and his wife and Beatrice Nwaneka Ekweremadu for conspiring to bring a child to the UK for organ harvesting. My colleague Juliana Olayinka has been following this story, although we understand now that it will be arraigned in another few days. My colleague Juliana Olayinka earlier today was at the Scotland Yard to report on this situation. Take a listen to her.
Coming out of the UK this morning, and that is that a Nigerian man and woman have both been detained and charged by the Metropolitan Police's Specialist Crime Unit for conspiring to arrange the travel of a child into the UK in order to harvest organs. One is a Beatrice Ekweremadu, and the second individual is Ike Ekweremadu. And I believe it's that second name, isn't it, that's causing shockwaves, I would say, not just in Nigeria, but across the international community, because if it is indeed, as some media outlets are speculating, the former Deputy Senate President, then this individual was once one of the most powerful politicians in Nigeria. Now, I believe the People's Democratic Party, with which he served under, have been approached for a comment. They have refused to comment thus far, but I do believe that this story is likely to pick up over the next couple of days. One of the reasons why is because it is a big story here in the UK at the moment. The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, alongside Prime Minister Boris Johnson, are grappling with the migrant crisis. And the European Union say that one of the real issues is organ harvesting, and a lot of these human traffickers, if they're not able to get these asylum seekers to pay for their illegal travel, then they are using their bodies to harvest their organs. So it is a very serious issue. It is an ongoing criminal investigation, so the Metropolitan Police say they are not going to provide further details just yet, but as always, we are on the ground. As soon as we have any further information, we will be giving it to you. Juliana Olayinka reporting for Channels TV News outside of Scotland Yard in London.
My colleague Juliana Olayinka there, right in front of the Scotland Yard earlier today. Latest coming on that story is that Senator Ekweremadu and his wife, the trial has been adjourned till July the 7th. So much to talk about tonight. I promise you, it's one of those programs on this station that you don't want to miss. There are a lot of stories that we're tracking also for you, but we put them together in our political roundup stories.
A former member of the House of Representatives from Rivers State, Igwe Aguma, is urging the national leadership of the People's Democratic Party to caution members across the country against making comments that can cause division among stakeholders at this critical time. Mr. Aguma said this while reacting to comments by the former governor of Niger State, Babangida Aliyu, on the choice of the party for the vice presidential position.
He has been in limbo all this while. He has all of a sudden found a voice, because he advised Atiku Abubakar, our presidential candidate, to go against the recommendations of both the panel himself.
The Cross River State Governor, Professor Ben Ayade, has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to invest more in the welfare of the police officers by employing and training more personnel ahead of the 2023 general election. Speaking in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, during a courtesy visit by the Minister for Police Affairs, Mohammed Megari Dingyadi, for a national sensitization campaign, the governor explained that more should be done to strengthen the security agencies to ensure a hitch-free election come 2023.
Social welfare, which is a civic responsibility of government, because government collects tax.
But numbers of young people registering to participate in the forthcoming elections in Nigeria continue to rise. as INEC records over 7,000 new registrants in the ongoing special campaign for voters registration by Yaga Africa and the European Union in Abuja. Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Mr. Samson Itodo, told Channels Television that the number of newly registered persons rose from 1,821 on Monday when the campaign started to 3,119 on Wednesday. Senate President Ahmed Lawan has directed the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to urgently intervene in the crisis rocking the judiciary. Recently, 14 justices of the Supreme Court wrote to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Muhammad, lamenting the various operational challenges which have affected the efficiency of the Apex Court. They are protesting poor welfare packages which they claim has hindered their jobs, epileptic electricity supply to the Supreme Court, increase in electricity tariff, as well as the stoppage of foreign trainings. Ahead of the July 16 governorship election in Osun State, members and ambassadors of the Vote Not Fight VNF campaign in southwest Nigeria have urged candidates of participating political parties in the state to amplify their voices for the Vote Not Fight campaign for a free, fair and credible election. They noted that the campaign has tremendously enhanced youth participation in the nation's electoral process. More reactions continue to trail Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State, with the latest coming from the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, which has described the exercise as a daylight robbery. Speaking at a news conference in Abuja, the IPAC chairman, Mr. Yabagi Sani, says the election was characterized by blatant vote buying and other electoral malpractices in connivance with some security officials. The Social Democratic Party, SDP, also is rejecting the outcome of the Ekiti governorship election. The party says the election witnessed massive vote buying. At a news briefing in Abuja, the national chairman of the party, Shehu Gabam, says its legal team is working on the various evidences to challenge the process. And a female candidate in the June 18 governorship election in Ekiti State has been fuming over the outcome of the election. The ADP flag bearer alleges massive vote buying, conspiracy with security agencies, and undue dominance by some political parties. She vows to challenge the outcome in court.
And there you have it, up to date with some of your latest political stories. Let's tell you that it appears the All Progressives Congress, APC, is now taking the Osun governorship election lightly at all. One could assume that, considering the caliber of persons which is now forming the campaign organization set up by the leadership of the APC. Today, the APC inaugurated its National Campaign Council for the Osun State governorship election. The council is co-chaired by Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje and Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Present at the inauguration were the governors of Nasarawa, Kogi, Gombe, Niger, and Kebbi. Governor Boyega Oyetola, who is flying the party's flag at the polls, was also present. The national chairman of the party, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, said he was told the People's Democratic Party's candidate was a money bag, and therefore the APC must do everything necessary within the law to win the election. Take a listen to him.
That plan to win, the ability to execute the plan, rests with the leadership that this council is going to provide in the campaign efforts. I urge you to leave no stone unturned. I urge you to go there and do whatever is doable within the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and our electoral laws to win. My tolerance level and this National Working Committee's tolerance level for failure is really zero.
Well, let's get into one of the major stories for tonight. It was some kind of fanfare and some kind of entertainment today in Asaba, the Delta State capital, when supporters of the PDP and that of the governor, Senator Ifeanyi Okowa, gathered and trooped out in their numbers to give the PDP vice presidential candidate a support and a rousing reception. Last week, before the deadline, the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, announced Senator Ifeanyi Okowa as a running mate. A lot of reactions have trailed the decision of their candidate.
He arrives in company of his wife and other well-wishers to the tarmac, where officials of Delta State are waiting to receive them.
Well, then you see pictures of the reception given to Senator Ifeanyi Okowa, the governor of Delta State, as his people welcomed him to the state after it was announced as the running mate to Atiku Abubakar tonight. We hope to hear firsthand from the PDP vice presidential candidate, who a lot of reactions have trade his emergence. Senator Ifeanyi Okowa, the governor of Delta State, PDP vice presidential candidate, joins us live on the program from Asaba, the Delta State capital. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, and I must say congratulations for your emergence, your nomination as the VP candidate of your party. But let me begin by first, asking you, did you see this coming? Were you gunning for this? Did this come to your mind as a possible next move after exiting the stage as the governor of Delta State? Was this premeditated by you?
First, I want to thank you for having me on your program. The nomination as a vice presidential candidate could not have been premeditated because it is the right of the candidate to make a choice. And as we went into the week of the convention, it was not clear who was going to win the elections or the nominations. But the only time it did start coming to my mind that there was a possibility that I could be on that ticket was when the party has started narrowing down to the South-South geopolitical zone. But even as at that, it could have been any person because there were several persons from the South-South geopolitical zone who were qualified, eminently qualified, to be nominated as vice presidential candidates. It's just the grace of God that I did emerge at the end of the selection, and I give thanks to God.
There are a lot of reactions that have trailed your emergence. First and foremost, let's look at the selection process. We understand that there was a voting process leading to the decision of the party and the decision of the candidate. First and foremost, we understand that you came second in the voting process, but the candidate chose you. Why did the party take that route?
In the first instance, from the information that I've gathered, I don't think there was a voting process. I do know that there are several processes that are undertaken before the candidate makes a choice. From the briefings that I have, the candidates in advising the party did request that 3 names should be nominated to him, from which he was going to make his choice. And I think the party at the end actually did nominate 3 names. He actually went on to narrow it down before the party went into his committee that was selected for this purpose. And he had narrowed down the selection to 3 persons, and all 3 have to come from the South-South geopolitical zone. And he did brief us at the Governors Forum of the PDP that he wanted a serving governor. So the implication of that was that since we had 5 serving governors in the South-South geopolitical zone that were of the PDP, that 3 persons had to be nominated out of 5 of us. I'm not aware from the briefing that I did get that there was any voting process, because they couldn't have required the voting. It's possible that people may have made comments as to who and who ought to be among the 3 from the 5 persons, because there were 5 governors and we needed to select 3 to nominate to Atiku Abubakar, who is our candidate. And I think at the end of the day, the party did make a recommendation of 3 of the 5 serving governors, and the candidate made a choice out of the 3 of us. So that why I did actually say that it's just the grace of God that enabled me to emerge. Otherwise, we were all eminently qualified.
So one looks at it this way, from some of the conversations we've had and the information coming out of the party, was that Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, yourself, Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, and the Governor of Akwa Ibom State, Emmanuel Udom, were the three that made the cut. But eventually we understand that the proposition of the committee was that Governor Wike was a choice, but that there was a decision by the candidate for you to be his running mate. But if you can tell us, what are the qualities you think that the candidate saw, or what are the conversations he had with you that led to his final decision to deciding that you will be his running mate over Governor Wike, for example, who we understand that got a popular decision or proposition by some of the leaders of the party?
Sure, I want to thank you, but I think that this question should actually be answered by the candidate himself. Because as I did say, yes, you're right, 3 names were nominated. Myself, Governor Wike of Rivers State, and Governor Emmanuel Udom of Akwa Ibom State. 3 names were submitted to the candidate. But I do believe that he must have had a look at the 3 of us and made a choice based on certain parameters that will be clearly known to him. It should not be in my position to say exactly why he did pick me. But otherwise, in his comment, in making the nomination, he did pay glowing tributes to the 3 of us. We had worked very closely with the party, and we have continued to be party members. But he cannot make a choice. He had to make a choice, one out of the 3 of us. And I truly think and believe that the decision was his, and he alone would know exactly why he did pick me as his vice presidential candidate. But for me, I give thanks to God. And I actually thank my brothers who were possible vice presidential candidates, because they had also worked very closely with me, and they had worked for the party. They've actually given a lot of support to the party, just as I have done. They were eminently qualified, and it could have been any one of us. Truly, it could have been any one of us. But the real reason I was chosen is only the candidate that will be in a position to give answers to that.
Thank you so much, Governor Okowa. Let's look at what you bring to the table. First and foremost, there are a lot of misgivings. There are a lot those of your party members who are very happy about your emergence, who thought that your experience in the Senate, you being a 2-term governor, would count. And looking at what you've done, those who made reference to your organization abilities, the convention in Port Harcourt that you did for the party, there are a lot of things that people are saying. But there are those who have their misgivings about your emergence. For example, PANDEF, you must have heard their misgivings. I mean, they said that their sons and daughters should not accept because they had the mindset that the ticket or the presidency of the country should come from a certain region of the country. What are your immediate reactions to those kind of misgivings?
First, I want to appreciate the elders for the comments they have made. There's no doubt that they are entitled to the opinions that they have rendered to our people. I do not want to join issues with our elders because they would have reasons for making the comments that they have made, depending on the information that is available to them at the particular point in time. But for me, as I did say before Arise Television in my interview with them, I belong to a political party, and that party is the People's Democratic Party. I've committed myself to the party, and I remain a party member to today. So as a party man, I'm governed by the rules of the party and governed by the policy direction of the party. And having committed to be a member of that party, it's only right that I have my obedience is to the party as my obedience is also to the people of this country. And to that extent, if my party did in a National Executive Committee meeting take a decision following the recommendation of a committee that they would throw the presidential race open for the best to emerge, and we did go into the convention, and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, emerged as a presidential candidate. It's only fair that if he's from the north and he's a Muslim, that a Christian from the south should be his running mate. It would have been a disservice on my part to have turned down the vice presidential nomination because I am a party man to the core, and I have the only decision I can make at this point in time is to support my party to win the elections, because I'm very much confident of the fact that the PDP has a role to play in rescuing this nation and rebuilding this nation for the future. And I think that the decision I did take is in consonance with the wishes of the large majority of our people in the PDP. I respect the views of our elders in the Pandef, in the Middle Belt, and the Southeast and the Southwest. But it's important that they also understand that I belong to a political party and I have to commit myself to the decisions of the political party. Just as elders in their thought, they are committing themselves to the thought processes of the groups that they lead. And I think that at some point in time, we'll have time to truly discuss this, where I'll be given an opportunity to explain my own path, why we have to go on this path. This is a nation that is under a lot of challenge. It's a nation in which the voices out there are such that there's a lot of tension being created. But we realize that Nigeria is better if we are truly able to knit it together. And at a point in time when the conversations are such that they tend to divide us, at some point in time, we need to begin to bring our voices together to try to unite this nation. And I think that the PDP does realize that, and we truly believe that it's a time that we begin to sheath our swords and begin to look at what is best for Nigeria, what is best for, what best path do we have to take to be able to bring solutions to the current challenges that we have at the moment. And I think that for us in the PDP, we believe that we're on the right course to delivering that, and our voices must be such that we work towards rebuilding this nation, rebuilding the confidence, rebuilding the unity, and begin to approach the issues of insecurity in the country, because we must work together as stakeholders, along with our youth, along with our women, along with the elders of this country, the various traditional rulers and religious groups. We need to begin to bring our voices in such a manner that unifies us for a common fight against poverty, a common fight against unemployment, a common fight against our education that is going downhill, a common fight against
Your Excellency,
the loss of hope.
If I may hop in quickly, all right. The issue of zoning may not be something that will go away quickly. That conversation might be with us for a while. The southeast region of the country is one that has stayed and stick with your party for a long time. They will say they've shown loyalty to your party over the years. But some of the conversations that are coming out of that zone or region of the country is such that they feel betrayed. I mean, betrayer is what Pandef described your acceptance to be the running mate of the PD, of Atiku Abubakar. But if you look at it, you are Ifeanyi. Ifeanyi is an Igbo name. Do you identify as an Igbo man in that sense? Or do you imagine that the perceived neglect of the zone, of the Southeast zone, could be hurtful for the chances of your party in 2023?
In the first instance, I'm Ifeanyi, and there's no doubt that I'm an Igbo man. I'm an Igbo man in Delta State, in the South-Side geopolitical zone. Secondly, there is no doubt that the Southeast has the right of agitation. And as the Southeast also has the right of agitation, the Northeast has also continued to make claims to the presidency. Because from the records available, both the Northeast and the Southeast have not been able to produce a president in this country as of today. I do believe that the issues are there. These are issues that must be discussed. These are issues that must be taken into consideration as we move into the future. There's no doubt about that. But in making requests, we also do realize that we're in a democratic process. And a democratic process, it's not just enough to be able to push for something as luck back. As you push, you continue to push. It may not come at the time that you want it, but it stays on the table, and at a particular point in time, obviously it will come. The Northeast feels that they are entitled to the presidency. The Southeast feels that they are entitled to the presidency, and both are right. When we were talking about the issues of the presidency, if the PANDEF, it's not even just about PANDEF or the Southwest, the Afenifere or the Middle Belt or the Ohanese alone, in their collective voice, if they had insisted that the presidency will want it this time and insisted it must be on the Southeast, a good request. But the real truth is, we're just asking for a Southern presidency without trying to situate it where ordinarily it should be. Just as those who were also asking for a presidency in the North for one reason or the other, because if you ask questions too, you begin to see people tell you that since 1999, if you check the number of years, at the end of 2023, you find that the South has occupied the presidency for more years than the North. So people also have their opinion, and the tendencies are different. The tendencies are actually different depending on what line of argument that you're bringing on board. But as of today, the real truth is both the Southeast and the Northeast have continue to lay claims that it is their turn to have the presidency, and I think that those claims are not wrong. They are obviously not wrong. But under the circumstances that we found ourselves, our vice president, former vice president, Atiku Abubakar, who is from the Northeast, in our convention got the ticket, and to a large extent that has situated, by God's grace, when we win in February 2023, that has situated the presidency in the Northeast. So as we move forward and the Igbos continue to make the agitation, and show that the time will come when an Igbo man will also be president of this nation. The important thing is that the issues are already on ground, and we'll continue to discuss them.
We're due for a break in about 30 seconds or so, but I'd like you to quickly, in just 30 seconds, touch on this matter before we go on the break. And it's a matter of the fact that whatever your party is doing now, there are those who believe that it is the expediency of winning the election that have caused the party to move in that direction. Going north for the presidential candidate, there are those who believe that the party needed to win an election against the APC, and they needed to do that. And going south and stretching out to you from the south is also an political expediency. But now, look at it. Winning the election, you wonder that the biggest zone, the big boys in terms of voting population, who is the Northwest and the Southwest. Do you think the pair of Atiku Abubakar and Ifeanyi Okowa from a northeast and the south-south, they are not of the biggest voting bloc in the country, can win PDP an election in 2023? Just in 30 seconds.
Yes, I believe that it's a strong team. I believe that Nigerians do know that we bring on board a lot of experience, the experience of the former vice president and the experience that I also bring to the ticket from both the legislature and having been governor this number of times. We bring experience to the table. It's going to be just beyond the issue of zones when we talk, when we go into the campaigns. The experience that we bring on board that is positive experience will definitely give us a victory path. You can find that the APC is already finding it very difficult to find who will be their vice presidential candidate. We're hearing some we've not heard before, that they have somebody on placement to be replaced. That actually is not smart. It does not give you, make us believe that they're even ready for the election. There's still a lot of confusion in the APC, and I believe that we're on the right path. Right from day one, we have taken our decisions, we are moving on, and we believe that will bring a lot of experience that will touch the lives of our youth, that will touch the lives of our women, and that will give us a new path in educational development beyond what we are seeing today. Things are going downhill.
Let's conclude our conversation now, Your Excellency, and perhaps let me begin by asking you, because before I go into what you bring to the table as a running mate to Atiku Abubakar, because that will matter, your pedigree, what the things that you think in your mind will make you win the election. But first and foremost, it's like you need some house cleaning before you get into the polls. There are a lot of people who are not happy. I know that your political godfather is one that is not being in tune with you in the past few days, whether or not you have been able to reconcile with him, and also your other colleagues in the party that may have some misgivings. How are you reconciling? Are you reaching out to them? Have you called some of them who have shown their misgivings in the last few days?
In the first instance, if you're talking about the former governor of Delta State, Chief James Onefebori, I think that people just try to give to exaggerate the difference that was thought to be between us. But I want to truly assure you and to bring to your knowledge that he was one of the very strong voices for me in the last few days before my nomination. And I think that he made a great input in the last few days to enable me be nominated. So there are no issues really, and I think that he did great. Concerning my colleagues, I've been reaching out to my colleagues. I believe that we are on the right path. Reconciliation is coming on gradually, and I believe that in the next few days we're likely all going to be on the same path, working strongly to achieving success in the elections. It's a continuing thing, and I want to truly appreciate all my colleagues, not only those who were nominated as vice presidential, nominated by the committee, but my colleagues across the states in this nation. All of us, I want to thank them and to thank all other party leaders, including former governors, who have continued to work very hard in their various states. We are comfortable and we are going very fast. The issues are not too strong. We are actually making up.
So let's conclude the conversation tonight, Governor Okowa, and just in 30 seconds, if you can tell Nigerians what you bring to the table. Why should Nigerians look in the direction of Atiku Abubakar and Ifeanyi Okowa and hand over their destinies for the next 4 years into their hands? What do you bring to the table? Why should Nigerians trust their destinies and the destiny of this nation of about 200 million people into your hands with some of the problems we're facing right now? Can Nigerians trust Ifeanyi Okowa and Atiku Abubakar for the next 4 years? Just in 30 seconds.
In the first instance, I've worked in so many places. I've been local government council chairman, commissioner, secretary, a senator, and governor. And in all these positions, I've done well. I've worked very well with the youths. I've worked very well with the women. I've brought a lot onto the table. If you find out, Delta State is a very peaceful state, even when it's a mini Nigeria with so many ethnic groups. We have been able to unite ourselves. We have been able to build peace together. We have been able to build development of the state together, and the narratives are good. The education sector in Delta State is strong, and all these are things we're going to bring up. The entrepreneurial spirit in our youth have been stirred up, and we have continued to ensure that our youth are meaningfully engaged and that they acquire skills to be able to help themselves. These are things we need to bring into the nation. We have also given an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the candidate of the party, is quite experienced. And in today's Nigeria, with the kind of things that we see, I believe he's the right man. He's going to hit the ground running on day one. He knows what to do in terms of insecurity, in terms of building our people. He's been talking about the issues of restructuring, which is foremost in our mind in many parts of the South. He's been talking about education, the need to rejig our education, to put it on the right path, to ensure that we bring entrepreneurial skills into the education sector, to ensure that we have vocational education, apart from ensuring that our students get the best. And the economy is a major issue, and he is one man that we know that even in his time with Obasanjo, they were able to deal with the issue of the economy in such a manner that we could trust that Nigeria could get over all this again. So he brings a lot to the table, just as I'm able to complement it. And I think that all these issues will be taken care of as we come in.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Governor of Delta State and the Vice Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential election. Thank you indeed for talking to us tonight.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
We switch gears now, everyone, to Ekiti State and what happened after that election. The governorship election in that state, in the southwest, is being won and lost. But the dust is not settled just yet. The Social Democratic Party candidate, Engineer Segun, will be joining us live right here on the program. But let's look at some of the figures. If you look at it, the APC won in 15 local government area. PDP won 1 in F1 local government area. And if you can see, the margin of victory between Biodun Yebanji and Segun is 104,846 votes. That's the margin of victory between them. If you look at the votes generally, registered number of votes is almost 1 million, but the total number of accredited voters is just 363. Total valid votes is about 351. And total votes cast 360, with rejected votes of 8,888. But if you look at the votes that the top 3 candidate in the race garnered, from 187,000 of Oyebanji to Segun of 82,000 and 67,000 of BC Kolawole. Of course, you can see the margin of victory between Oyebanji and Segun, 104,000, and that of Oyebanji and BC Kolawole, the margin of victory is 119,000. Well, the journey into the government house in Ekiti State may have been determined by the vote of the people in that state, looking like Biodun Yebanji, the governor-elect, who has indeed received a certificate of return in the state. Let's now hear from the runner-up, Mr. Engineer Segun, a former governor of Ekiti State and the SDP governorship candidate in that race. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
How did the outcome of the election come to you? Were you surprised by the outcome?
Oh, of course, I was surprised. I was surprised because we had very great expectations, and it's not for nothing. We went around campaigning. We know what the people feel about us and how they feel about us. I believe that there may be more to the results.
You think the election was rigged?
Rigged could even be an understatement.
What do you think happened?
We are not going to say anything yet until we collect all our evidence and we bring them to public light. But rig may be an understatement.
So you think the figures that came out of that election were not true figures?
I hope they are true figures, because if they are not, it will create a situation where we may be running a democracy of fiction. I hope they are not. I hope the figures are true. I hope that Nigerians can believe that they will go into an election and their votes will count.
What do you think was the fundamental, I mean, obviously you're not happy with the outcome of the election. But what would you describe, how do you describe the election, or perhaps what do you imagine is the fundamental flaw that you have identified in that election?
Well, there was open vote buying everywhere, and we believe that is not good enough. There was also the problem of thuggery. In some places, thugs went to polling stations, shot into the air, asked everybody to lie down, like it happened in Ilawe, and took away the ballot boxes. It happened in 2 polling units in Ilawe. And so...
Were those votes counted?
I don't know. I don't know.
They took it, but did they bring it back? Did they take the ballot box?
I don't know.
For some of the reports you are getting, what was it like?
No, I don't know, because some of the reports we cannot tally them properly, and that's why we are trying to check now what happened. I wouldn't make comments about what I'm not very sure of, but we are working to situate the result properly.
So that result, you don't think is genuine? You don't think is the true reflection of the vote of the people?
I don't think so.
Even the one you got, the 82,000 votes you got?
I don't think so.
The APC believe that they beat you round and squarely?
Well, I hope that is what happened. Then we will be confident that democracy, that if you don't get it, it means it is because you don't get it. And that's what democracy should be. I hope that we are not dealing with fiction to a reasonable extent. So
it still feels like a dream, isn't it? Like, I mean, for you still don't believe that this is real, that this is happening, based on the expectations that you had.
Yeah, definitely we had great expectations. We know what our relationship with some of the voters in some of those places are, and we know why we are confident about what they will deliver, because of what we have delivered to them in the past. But nevertheless, we believe there could be surprises. But I want to be very sure where this is coming from.
So let's get it right, Engineer Oni. First and foremost, let's dissect these issues properly. What are you most surprised by? Is it the margin of victory or by the loss?
Well, I would say loss and margin, they are basically talking about the same thing.
I mean, that you lost an election, maybe you could lose by 2 votes. I mean, that's a loss. But that you were beaten by 100 and, how many thousand? 104,000. That's a lot of votes.
I believe that that could not be. But
you don't think that you could have lost to APC?
I don't believe I could have lost to them with such a margin. I don't even believe I could have lost to them. Let us face it. We traversed the length and breadth of Ekiti. We know what people are saying. We know how they feel. There are communities where we were virtually unchallenged.
Could this have been a betrayal from the people that you trusted could have, naturally would vote for you, maybe by some kind of dramatic incident? Because if you're challenging this figure, then one will wonder, so if you say that those votes may not be real, so what happened to the votes that he gave you? Were those also orchestrated votes?
I am not saying that any is real until we try to find out. We are right now working on trying to authenticate both mine and APCs and PDPs. We will authenticate and will come to public space very soon with what we've been able to see.
The reports that we had on the ground and from some of what people talked about was the fact that most of the political parties were buying votes. Was it that your own people did not properly execute that project properly and did not get the required result?
Well, we knew there may be vote buying, but...
which your party also participated in?
No.
Those are the allegations coming from the other parties.
No.
Virtually almost all the major political parties participated in vote buying.
You don't go to market space to buy if you don't have money.
So you didn't have the money?
Well, we don't have the kind of money they're throwing around. And I can tell you, without access to public funds, nobody could buy votes at that degree of intensity. I don't expect, that's why you will not see the other. Only two of them had access to public funds.
Who are those?
APC and PDP. And I don't, that's why the others are also not featuring.
Have you heard what the APC have described you? Yeah. They've called you names. They say you're a bad loser. That each time you lose an election, you always fight it out. How difficult is it to take a defeat?
I will just tell them that I didn't lose an election in 2007, and I know how it took. Twice I won, back to back. Twice they went to tribunal and got to... In fact, my election in 2007 was the reason people agitated that the tribunal process for governorship elections should not end at the Court of Appeal. I believe Nigerians will still remember. So if they say was I the one going to court then? Was I the one suing then that red biro was used to complete accreditation papers and therefore renders votes properly done without challenge invalid? I believe that when people say all this, they should think. If in 2007 there was voting and I was not the one who supplied the red biro that they used for accreditation to INEC, and they went to court. I didn't even know that, I didn't notice that red biro was used for accreditation. I went there, they accredited me, and I voted. And they surfaced in the court to say red biro was used, therefore it renders the votes invalid. If somebody could get to that extent, who is a recalcitrant?
Let's look at the pattern of the voting.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it does look like nothing really has changed. I mean, we had conversation about this election yesterday, and there were those who believe that if Engineer Segun was on the ballot as a PDP candidate, that you probably may have made a lot of inroads and probably would have made a mark bigger than perhaps what we've seen today. That the vote of the PDP in the pattern in which it was in 2018 is the same pattern in which, look at the vote of the SDP if you put it together with the vote of the PDP. The PDP in the last election had about 178,000. This time around, if you put the votes of the SDP yourself and that of the PDP together, it's about 149,000. The PDP, the APC the last time, God defy me, had a vote of about 197,000. The APC this time around had 119,000. The pattern looked almost the same. The APC won in about 11 local government at that time. The PDP won 2. This time around, PDP won 1. So a lot of people will imagine that the pattern of voting is very similar. So if the science looks the same, what exactly is Engineer Segun's reservation in this election?
My reservation is still my reservation. I am not sure yet, and that's why I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I said I have doubts. And I'm entitled to work on my doubts until we clear it.
What are you going to do?
Well, my party has said we will go to court, but I would say let us check the evidence base first. We will check. We are working on we are not, I am not under pressure to do anything. What we are doing for the sake of democracy. But if democracy will thrive, you and I must have confidence that election does not turn to half fiction and half...
Okay, so if you check and you discover
facts.
that these elections are foolproof, that the votes of the people, would you congratulate the winner?
Of course we do.
Have you reached out to the winner?
No. Not yet.
But he's your brother.
Yeah,
you were from the same camp. Until political
he's
stuff
my
now
brother.
divided
We are
you.
talking about the realities of this contest. I want to be very sure that he won fair and square. If he won fair and square, I'll come out to congratulate him. I don't have any qualms about that. I don't have any inhibitions.
All right. So now that you lost in this election, should you take any decision to challenges in court, because you have the right to seek redress? And should you not be successful, is it the end of the road? Engineer Segun is almost 70 years. Would you still pursue the ambition of becoming the governor of Ekiti State one more time?
No. Let me say it very, very clearly. I don't have any plan of contesting governorship again. Whether I win or not, I don't have any plan of contesting governorship again.
Are you disappointed?
Naturally, you'll be disappointed.
Will this kick you out of active politics?
No, it won't. It will keep me in politics because there are some things to do. We cannot abandon working for democracy and working for our people because of a one-off situation like this. I personally believe that all well-meaning Nigerians should continue to strive to make Nigeria a better place.
We're totally out of time. With the benefit of hindsight, do you imagine that maybe if you stayed back in PDP, maybe, just maybe, do you regret leaving? If things were better managed in the PDP, do you imagine staying back? Do you regret leaving the PDP?
No. You see, let me say this very, very clearly. If you study my trajectory, there's been only one reason that I have left every party I have left. Injustice. I am not going to make compromise with injustice. If I find it anywhere, I will not make compromise with it, because there is nothing I want in life that will make me bow to evil.
All right. Engineer Segun, SDP governorship candidate in the Ekiti governorship election and the runner-up in that race. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheil.
And I wish you the very best in all your endeavors.
Thank you.
Well, that's how we leave the show tonight and we close it. Many thanks everyone for watching. I'm Segun Akimbale. Bye for now.